I think you got that in just as the recording started. Good job.
Nice.
All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Shop Stool podcast. This is season 7, episode 3, and we have a regular who needs no introduction joining us on the show again today. Welcome back, Nick Pedulla. Great to see you.
Thank you very much for having me back. Third time.
So, who chose to get Nick on the show? Why is he here? What are we talking about?
Yes, why am I here?
I
think it was me after the. I listened back to last week's episode, and it sounded so negative, Nancy, about our careers. So I was like, "Who's a good positive voice we can get on? Who's doing something a bit differently, and not just making commission projects, but is sort of diversified and gone into other things as well?" And I went, Nick.
So you're asking me to focus on the positives.
Yes.
So yeah, if you could just
There's plenty of fucking negatives.
just make all our business successful overnight. That'd be lovely. Thank you very much. And plus the name drop for Robin in your last video as well. I was like, oh yeah, we should get Nick back on.
Yeah,
So I
thank
think
you
you've
again
now
for that, man.
you've now gone one episode clear of Jem from Like Butter. I think you're now our record guest.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, I was just saying to Nick
congratulations.
before the show started, if we get 2 people on, it's quite a feat. To have someone on 3 times, you're basically part of the show now.
All right.
Especially someone of Nick's standing, like to really take the time to chat to us. We really appreciate it,
Yeah,
man.
of course. Yeah, anytime.
So we might as well talk about that video. We were talking about it a bit before the show. Nick, so that last video of you was sort of how you came to become a fantastic woodworker, and how many years was it? 16, 20 years that it took you to get there?
Yeah, 23 years, I think.
23 years.
From the first ever cabinet that I built.
Yeah, and it was a very cool story. Thank you for putting me on the video as well. I really appreciate
Mate, thank
it.
you for the inspiration. That wouldn't have happened unless I would have seen your video.
So, to everyone listening, Nick essentially approached me and said, in a very diplomatic way, because I could have really misinterpreted what you're saying, because essentially what he was saying was, I used to be as shit as you were. Now, I want to show my story going forward.
In 23 years' time, Robin, you can be as good as I am.
Yeah. But no,
That's not what I was trying to say.
We know.
I thought it was just such a cool story to show that that progression happens. We were also talking before the show about your YouTube channel and where it's come, and I feel like that's been a bit of a learning journey for you as well. How deep do you want to go into talking about YouTube? How deep are you comfortable talking about
As deep as
YouTube?
you want to go.
Because this was actually one of my Bryan, I know we talked earlier about talking to Nick about Patreon, but one of my notes to talk to you about was your channel and its success, and in light of this last video that's come out, as you said, hasn't done as well as you'd hoped. What are your plans for the future with YouTube? Where do you see yourself going in the next 6 months?
Well, this is my job now. So I've gone from custom furniture maker to video production company, I guess.
Right. Okay.
And
So are you? Does that mean you're not taking on client commissions?
I'm currently just about to start the last client job for the year. So I haven't been taking on orders for about the last 6 months. So I can prepare for this. And it's essentially, I'm not saying no to client work ever again, because client work is a great way to make some extra money. You can essentially build the piece, get paid for it, film it, get paid for it on YouTube, document it on Patreon and get paid for that, and bring people along and teach them how to do it. It's great. The only downside at this point in time for where I'm at is that client work stops any other ideas for the YouTube channel and for Patreon to be able to happen. There's just too much work to be able to deal with the clients, to be building something within parameters when I've got other ideas that will be starting after this build. So for the remainder of the year, I can now start accomplishing these ideas. And these ideas are hopefully ones where I'll be learning a lot, as well as the viewers can be learning a lot as well, and offer just a shitload of content for people on Patreon.
So just to dive into that, because I think what you're talking about is something that I've been considering myself recently. A client comes to me and says, I want to build something. Now I need to find a story or an angle on that piece of furniture instead of being able to come up with the theory or the idea of the video and then building a piece of furniture to match it. So that's what you're saying, right?
Basically, because as much as I'm sure we'd all love to just be able to do a how-to video, and like, oh, the reason why you put this together is because of this and whatever, they don't really perform amazingly well. Yes, you'll get a really solid following of people, and then you can direct them elsewhere. I'm sure we'll get to that later. But if you want to bring in people that aren't usually in the woodworking game to watch your videos, then you do, personally, I feel like you do have to have some element of story behind it.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm really shocked at you saying that your latest video didn't perform that well, because I thought the real strength of it was the nostalgia and the storytelling. Like it was.
We were saying before, that's actually one of the better performing videos retention wise. It's just in the first like 20 seconds, I sort of went on for maybe a little bit too long. I guess the way that the YouTube algorithm worked, like I was telling the guys before, I hate blaming things on the algorithm, because people think that it's this equation that, you know, if it likes you, it likes you. If it doesn't, it doesn't. The algorithm is based on human behavior. Okay. And if human behavior if people watching your videos aren't responding the way the algorithm expects it to, well, then YouTube isn't going to waste its real estate on your thumbnail. It'll put someone else there that can get them the views and get them the revenue that they're looking for. So I just made a couple of mistakes. I've tried every trick in the book, and anyone that's been watching, I apologize for all the thumbnail changes, but sometimes that's just what you need to do to try and give it an extra push. But this video, in my opinion, it's a hard pill to swallow. When, I know it sounds silly, getting 100 and something thousand views is a hard pill to swallow. I'm sure a lot of people would like that, but when you're doing it as a full-time thing, you need to see those views go up, and you want to be growing, and more people watch the YouTube video, the more people come over to Patreon. So it is a bit of a letdown, but at the same time, it's a story that I wanted to put out there, and the response that people have been giving me is great. At the end of the day, that is a successful video. Yeah.
In terms of the views spike, like you're getting the majority of your views in the first day or two that you put the video out?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Like, you can kind of read the analytics from when a video comes out, and I'm pretty, I take notes on every video that I release. So I actually usually release my videos 1 a.m. on a Monday morning here in Australia, because it gets the US market as they're sort of waking up for a Sunday coffee. So I'll be up till 4, 5 a.m. taking notes, watching how it goes, and doing whatever I can to help improve if it's not doing so well. And then essentially the way a video works from once it's released is it'll go straight out to your typical audience. So this might be your subscribers or people that have watched recently. And then it'll start, once again, I'm no expert on this. All right, this is just what I've observed. So I don't want to come across as I'm some fucking guru or something.
We're asking.
Take it for a grain of salt.
I mean, you definitely know more than the three of us.
This is just what I've noticed.
Know more than me.
Is the first, say, day or two or whatever, it'll send it to your normal audience, judge how it's doing with them, and then it pushes to a larger audience, and then a larger audience, and then another larger audience. All right, so if your video isn't doing so well with your regular audience in the first 24, 48 hours, chances are don't expect that to be a 1 million view video, because it's not going to get the chance to get to the other audiences that aren't your typical audience. If that makes sense.
Funny you say that about the first 20 seconds, because it was the first 20 seconds of the video that actually hooked me in to watch the rest of it.
Sure.
Maybe it's an attention span thing, like not casting any shade on the younger generation, but you like, for me, the people, especially regular subscribers to your stuff, I mean, they know that it's long form content, and to switch off after 20 seconds to me is a really, really interesting.
It could have
bit of
been some
human
other
behavior.
issues where the thumbnail didn't meet that first 20 seconds properly. Who knows? Like, this is
Right.
shit that I scratch my head about all the time. And I think it's actually just starting to get to a point now where, look, you can think about it as much as you can and you can put as much time as you can. But I think it's just going to start getting to a point where stop putting so many eggs in the YouTube basket and start figuring out other ways to make a bit of money. Still using YouTube, but yeah, there's...
That, I've got 1,000 questions, but yeah, essentially, I mean, you've made a huge pivot because you really have just changed careers at this point, which is a whole other topic, which we may touch on that, because you're really a production company, like you say, and like the woodworking part of it is just, you happen to be the talent and the producer. You know, you could quite easily be hiring other talent to be filming them and just producing the content. But I guess, and I'm interested in the actual content itself. Like, when I was producing a lot of YouTube content, the variation in my content came from the variation in the jobs I was getting. And that was just like, that was what the video was going to be about, because I'm making some weird thing from week to week. And now that you don't have that kind of flow of different ideas from different clients, and you've already made some outstanding, crazy furniture, like, are you planning to go crazier and crazier, or do you think there's a limit there, or are you trying to like make a sideways shift in the type of things you're going to be presenting on your channel?
There's not going to be any set thing. Like the crazy furniture, that's what I love doing the most, because it makes just my head sort of explode. You know, there's just so many interesting things about it. But I can't do that project after project.
Yeah,
because it's
right.
just too intense. Because it really does take over your life, right? It's not just you building; it's then you trying to sleep at night. Like, how the fuck am I going to do that tomorrow? You know, like it's too much. And it's also fun to do a really crazy piece and then come back and do a really simple piece, and then that gives you the motivation to want to do another crazy piece. But what I'm going to be focusing on after this client job is still a little bit of everything, but included in that is educational stuff as well, where I'm learning and hopefully the viewers learning as well, and just creative, fun ideas about videos too, right? So there's one thing that I can definitely say: every video that I do, because I film it all, I design everything, I edit everything. Like, there's not another person here that does any work, other than a couple of Instagram reels that you might see. I now have an editor that does that stuff, but all the long form stuff is done by me. In order for me to want to continue doing that, it's got to be interesting. And if it's not, then I lose boredom, and then I'll be on to the next thing, you know? So whatever comes out, I don't know exactly what the future's going to hold, but it's definitely going to be stuff that I find exciting. Yeah.
Quickly on that, you say you've got an editor. Was that do you feel like that's been a successful move?
It's definitely easier. Okay.
Sorry, I say that from from a financial perspective. Do you feel like I can't see it being justified for where I am? Do you feel like it's
would
justified?
Be financially viable for long form stuff. So for YouTube, it would be. I wouldn't mind paying someone to do the work, because it's a lot of my time. But at the same time, then that's also a creative aspect that's been taken out of the video, which I do feel like is important. For the short form stuff, it's kind of an experiment that I'm doing right now. Like, I don't like short form, and I don't think it fits in line with what we do in our career. You don't build shit in 60 seconds, you know, like, it's in depth, and that's what I like. Unfortunately, that's just kind of the way socials grow. Just from the few short form pieces that I put up on Instagram, I've gotten like a few thousand followers, and before that there was nothing.
But do you
So
think those,
that's just,
like, I know it's very, very hard to track that, but do you think those followers that are coming from short form content are actually your clientele for your Patreon as well? Like, do you notice a spike in subscriptions for that service?
that's a
off the
whole
short
other
form?
funny thing there as well. Like, from the experiments that I've run, the only thing that seems to really work for lots of people coming over to Patreon is YouTube. So it's the long form. It's the people that actually want to sit there and see what you've done and then find out more. So I'm going to go and pay this guy my hard-earned money and find out more. I have promoted Patreon on Instagram, and it works to a degree, but it's a trickle of people that'll come through. So it's kind of like with any subscription service, you have people that come off the platform for whatever reason, but you want to be able to have more people coming on the platform, and essentially promoting through Instagram keeps that at a fairly even state. So the people dropping off, you'll get the same amount of people essentially coming on. But then whenever you put a YouTube video out, you'll see a spike.
So we, on our last podcast, talked ad nauseum about the industry, and we were all very grim. And has this shift, had you noticed any kind of downturn in client work which maybe pushed you more into where you've gone at all, or is it separate?
No, client work, in all honesty, client work has, the inquiries have, like I said, I haven't been taking on any for 6 months. The inquiries are still coming in. They're not as strong as what they were, but they're still there. The reason for the shift was because I just felt like I wasn't building the things that I wanted to be building from the client work that I was doing. And the client work that I was doing was great. It's pretty much everything you see on YouTube and my website. That's all my client work, bar a few pieces that were for me. But the main thing that happened, it all came down to one night that I made the decision, and it was building a client piece for a client that I wasn't making much money from, building a piece that I wasn't documenting because it was their design and I didn't really like the design. And it was a Saturday night, and it was 9 o'clock on a Saturday night, and I'm building this thing that I didn't want to be doing. It's not going to progress my career in any way. And I just kind of, I was like sanding or something on a Saturday night, and I just put everything down, and I was just so frustrated. I sat down with a pen and paper and just wrote everything out. What aren't I liking about what's happening right now, and where do I want to be? And essentially the end of that list was, I've developed these skills over a lifetime, things that my grandfather introduced to me, and is going to waste. I'm not using it in the pieces that I'm currently building, and I should be showing people how to do this stuff so it can continue and keep my grandfather's legacy on, like teach people what he taught me. And then that's when I started to realize, well, I've got this YouTube channel that's doing pretty okay. From all the stories that I hear from YouTubers, it's not a sustainable thing unless you want to take on ad revenue. I didn't want to take on ad revenue at that time. I didn't want to take on sponsors at that time. So I started figuring out other ways, and that's when the idea of Patreon came about. And
you aren't taking on sponsors still?
No, but that last video has maybe changed my mind.
So that's how the devil gets you. Yeah.
Yep. It's unfortunate because the reason why I don't want to take on sponsors is, one, because I don't want to do what other people tell me. I don't want to have someone else's schedule. I've never liked that. And I'm somewhat concerned that it could interfere with the creative process. I guess you won't know until I try, though. But then the other reason is people's perception on ads, I think, can be somewhat detrimental. I think some people consider that as a sellout, or
I think the industry is definitely changing around that. So it's becoming a lot more accepted. Having said that, all the sponsorship deals that I've done over time, that's one of the first things that I'll say to the potential sponsor is, I need to protect my audience in this process. And they always say, absolutely, they understand. So they know that we are taking on a risk of putting their products on it. So maybe in 10 years, the integration will just be so solid that it won't even be a consideration anymore.
Yeah, well, I might be finding out by the next video because we'll see how we go.
Manscaped have been in touch, have they?
Yeah.
Mate, I don't know if you've ever used those razors before, but they're not very good.
That one's
say
officially
that
off the
now.
books now.
Yeah, the ad thing is something I always really tried not to have a sponsor in any of my videos, and you're probably getting bombarded with all the different crazy shit. But I always felt that was like the reason I think YouTube really took off in the early days was because it was like there were no ads. It was like a separate thing. You could watch what you wanted to watch without someone selling you stuff. Remember in the days when you're trying to watch free TV and it's like 5 minutes of ads every 10 minutes. Like it's outrageous if you try and think about trying to watch Seinfeld and every 10 minutes you've got to watch 5 minutes of ads. It was outrageous. And to get away from that was like an awesome feeling. And when I got to a point where I had a reasonably large audience, I felt like, yeah, I might make some money from an ad placement, but I value my audience and I don't want to have to make them watch an ad because they came to YouTube to not watch ads in the first place. That's what my mental kind of thought process was always at the time. And but I'd see more and more that it's so normal now that
It is. 1
or 2 sponsored places in videos.
I will say I don't take on sponsors from other companies, but essentially the way I use my YouTube, I still do a 60-second ad integration, but it's for my Patreon.
Yeah, right.
So I'd rather promote myself, and I feel like people can appreciate that. I understand I've pushed it a little too far sometimes, so I understand like what is acceptable and what isn't. And the comment section is a great way to find that out. But yeah, the reason why I might be considering doing that now is if the videos that I get are going to be getting 100,000 views, then that's not enough to get new people over to Patreon. So I'm not going to promote that then, but I could potentially get paid a good amount of money for promoting something else, who knows.
And with Patreon, are you finding that's... So obviously, how long have you been doing Patreon for now?
I think it's like 3 years.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I think you were starting it just after we last had you on the show, I think.
Yes.
I think you were just wrapping up full-time commission stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you're well entrenched in that process. You know how that goes. Do you struggle with the motivation to keep the level acceptable? So one of the things that a lot of people just talking to people in the industry struggle with Patreon is Patreon becomes your boss. And so you are tied down to such a tight schedule and expectation, etc. Have you struggled with that? Do you have any way of getting through that struggle?
No, I don't struggle with it, but it's because I am just I'm still shocked. It's 3 years and I'm still shocked that there's over 1,000 people paying me a monthly subscription. It's just amazing. And the community I think one thing that people might not completely understand is that the comment section over there is nowhere near like the YouTube comment section.
Everyone's
It's
friends.
wildly supportive. And there's a thing that I used to do, and I need to bring it back, but I used to do every Saturday morning, I'd put up a patron project. So I'd have patrons send me the stuff that they're working on, and then I would put it up and sort of promote them and tell them in the post, say what I liked about it. And the comments on that is insane. For starters, out of every post that I put up, that would get the most amount of comments. And it's just every other member saying wildly positive things. And just, you can't ask for anything better than that, right? That's just incredible.
Just a good support.
But as for the other contents, so I post 2 times a week, 2 videos per week over there. 1 video for tier 1 and 2 videos essentially for tier 2. And it's actually really easy to do because you're building something, and as I'm building it, I'm like, oh shit, people will probably want to know how this is done. So I just get my camera and record it. And it's not as high polished as YouTube.
But they don't care. That's not what they're after. They're not after the polish thing. They're after the information that's in it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's off the cuff. There's hardly any edits. It's a bunch of me going and you know. But it's information, and it's straight to the point, and it's filmed and then released like an hour later. You know.
Yeah.
And it's
I guess
enjoyable.
that's true. They want the real Nick, not the YouTube optimized Nick.
Yes, but then the other difference is that this is my full-time thing now, right? So it's not like a hindrance for me to be like, oh shit, I've got to get this client job done, and now I've got to put this video out. No. Like, these videos are what's paying the bills. So that's more than okay with me, sure. There still is a bit of imposter syndrome where you put a video out and you have all these people looking at you and you're like, they're all paying for your videos. It's kind of weird still, but it's pretty incredible that you can do that these days, I think.
Yeah. I think you, Joey, and to a lesser degree, Bryan, you guys have talked in the past about how having to film things is just a time sink. It's just, you know, one of the questions that I often get asked, because with my videos I break down where all my time is gone and costs and all of that in detail. Something that I keep getting asked is, how much time have you spent editing your videos? Because again, if you're going to factor that into your income, editing is a big process. And if you want to get better at it, that editing has to get longer and longer. So the amount of work that you could get done if you just weren't filming, you'd be a pretty successful furniture maker.
Yep.
Yeah.
But then I guess you got to kind of make a call. And that's the reason why I made that call. So you're right, Bryan. The last time I was on was making that sort of jump to go from like full-time furniture maker to then Patreon guy, whatever. But it had to be a call. I couldn't keep splitting my time between the two. It was a massive risk that I took. I'd saved up a bunch of money to be able to fund it for however, like, I think I had maybe, I can't remember now, maybe 6 weeks to 8 weeks or something in the bank to be able to pay for things in case it didn't work. And there was a strategy behind what I did. It's not like I just blindly went into saying no to clients and starting Patreon. There was a strategy that took 6 months to work out, and it paid off. Right, that's one of those ones where it paid off. There's a bunch of other shit that I've done since having my business that didn't pay off. This is just one of those ones that did.
Give us some of the failures. Because I think like that's what a lot of woodworkers will look at the position that you've got to, and they'll be like, you know, everything just went right for them. And they need to know that, you know, there are major bumps in the road and stuff that just...
I'm sure ones that we've all faced anyway, like different marketing strategies, Facebook ads, and, you know, spending money on, I spent thousands of dollars on magazine ads. Yeah. Now looking back on that,
funny, we were talking about print the other day on the first episode of this series, and we were like, "Yeah, there's just no point."
No, don't do that.
Yeah. So, do you promote the Patreon through paid ads anywhere? Like, do you do it on socials or not?
No,
only through your own platform, right?
Only through YouTube. So the way I look at YouTube is a marketing platform. Okay, so the way it works is if you can make a video that gets a bunch of eyeballs on it, YouTube is going to promote it to those people because they're making money off you. You're not paying them money physically out of your pocket, but they're making money off of your video. And they kind of have the best SEO in the game, right? They're going to market your video to 20,000 people, 100,000 people, 5 million people. And if you've got something to say or something to offer people, then you're going to have a lot of eyeballs on that. It's just got to be something worthwhile for people, that's all.
And I guess because it's all online, you bridge that gap between, traditional advertising that we do as furniture makers is, I can make you a piece of furniture, which is very location-specific, time-specific, whereas you bridge all of that because it's all online. Your product is all online.
But then the great thing is you're teaching people how to then maybe potentially build a piece of furniture for their client in their region. And then that's the reason why they might come on and join and learn about how to do more things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you got, that's an interesting, the way you worded that. Does that imply, I don't know if you know this information about who your patrons are, but do you have quote unquote professional people part of your patrons, or are they all kind of DIYers, kind of home?
No, there's people that already have established businesses. There's people starting out as a business owner. There's people starting woodworking, and then there's people there just to support. They probably don't care about touching the tools, but they just want to support what I do, which is amazing.
Yeah, cool.
But that's also because of the content that I've got on the platform, right? So it's teaching you how to, I don't know, steam bend wood in one video. So like every month I will do essentially like what you see other YouTubers do about a particular topic, like a long form video, except it's only available on Patreon. It's higher polished. That's where I write a script for. It's looks good and all of this, right? But it might be a video about how to steam bend. And then the next week might be how to get clients. And then the next video might be how to actually talk to those clients. It's just things that I've learned over the 8 years that I've had my business, but then also the fucking 30 years that I've been woodworking since 8 years old. So it's a little bit of everything. So you're going to get a little bit of different people from all around. Yeah.
Do you know if there's any educational facilities that are picking it up?
Not that I'm aware of.
Like TAFE, schools, etc., etc.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Because that could be an interesting.
One of the best comments
push
though that I
into.
got from that last video is there was a woodworking teacher. I don't remember what school he said, but he showed his HSC students the video. I'm like,
There
that
we go.
is cool.
Yeah, that's a notch on the belt.
That really rang a bell. I think I mentioned the first time you were on that we had a similar kind of starting point, because I feel like that story was in some small degree brought up in the first time you were on the podcast, because I remember talking maybe briefly that I had a similar experience with my high school woodwork class, and it was interesting to see all the ins and outs of that story. But I always felt that the woodwork class held me back. You seem to be lucky that you were able to build the thing you wanted to some degree, even though you ended up doing it at home, which is what I did at the time. I had already started my skateboard company. So I was 13, 14 when I started that. And so the school wouldn't let me bring any stuff into school to show how to make skateboards, even though that kids were trying to do it in the classroom, because I'd already started out of the classroom, all that stuff about proving who did the work and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And surely no kid can import veneer from America when they're 14, and it was just a stupid thing. And so it just put a bad taste in my mouth for the whole school education of woodworking, at least, because I always just felt they were just holding me back. And so you obviously had a similar but different, because they let you thrive in that environment to a certain degree. But then, so what was the reason that you ended up making most of it, that project at home? Was it because the school's facilities were a bit blah?
No, the school's facilities were okay, but you only had like an hour to work on a piece.
Yeah.
And I mean, if the piece was smaller, I could have done. I even think I did do a little bit of it at school. The small parts that I could, I'd bring it to school, work on it in class, take it home. But I'm just as, like, I guess, insane, for lack of a better word, back then than I am now, where once I start a project, I just get lost in it and want to work on it. So that's what I'd do on my weekends, right? I wasn't, like, really playing sport or anything on a Saturday. I was in my parents' garage working away. Yeah. So I guess that's the reason why. But a lot of students did as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that annoys me when I hear things like that. It just makes me it takes me back to those guys stopping me from doing what I wanted.
Sure. And I think that's why I brought up that question in the video of, like, do you think they should say that sort of thing?
Hmm.
Or do you, like, I think the guy that sold the plans should have told me that I shouldn't be building it.
Hmm.
I was
I can
actually
see both
talking to a
sides.
design and technology teacher, and they were saying exactly the same thing about how the curriculum curtails them in what they can
Right.
show the students, and it's always
Yep.
about pulling them back to what is, the path that needs. And it's like, what a shit way to treat your kids.
Sure, yeah.
And it's like it's not often the teacher's fault. I think maybe in some circumstances it is, but I think that the way the curriculum model is working, it's about getting all the students up to a middle level, as opposed to a kid who might not be, might not be good at maths, might not be good at English, but he's got this passion for making things,
Yeah.
and it's just
Yeah.
about getting him to that mid level as well, and not letting him,
And that's the
excel in what
unfortunate
he's-
thing as well. Because, Joe, I'm pretty sure that you have, is it your dad or another family member in the building industry?
Yeah, I mean, my dad and my granddad, just like you.
There you go.
My granddad did the same thing as I do.
So school or no school, you were still surrounded by it. And I'm sure that was harnessed in a positive way with your
absolutely.
family. And that's what I had.
Mm.
And it's only thanks to my grandfather that I'm still doing this, because school may not have given me what I needed. So it's unfortunate that, like, who knows how many, no matter what industry it is or what artistic endeavor it is, how many people have been talked out of it or their interest wasn't harnessed. Yeah, it is sad. It is a shitty thing. Yeah.
But then at the same, like I reckon there's lots of kids who are frustrated by their teachings and things, who will then come on to platforms like YouTube and watch your videos. So it's a really nice thing that you are continuing the legacy of correcting the mistakes of the education system that you were brought up in.
Yeah.
So, talking about videos, are you working on well, I assume you're working on the next one already. Can you give us any details on it?
It's for the same client as that last tambour door cabinet. And it is walnut and brass. They're 2 side tables with some very interesting doors. We'll just leave it at that.
Cool. Those curved doors that you did a couple months ago.
God.
That was so insane.
Which one was that?
It's the one where the door
cabinet
sort
with
of
the little brass inlay in it.
they
Did it have a brass inlay, or no? It was a contrasting timber
the-
veneer inlay.
the Burl?
Yeah,
Is that the Burl cabinet?
That's right. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
good one. That was fun.
Yeah,
how many
well,
nights did you stay up thinking about that? That would have been.
To be honest, I designed that like years ago. So I'd sort of already figured it out back then. So I was just really happy to be able to get the chance to build it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you say you figured it out years ago, so you wouldn't just have a project in your mind, you'd have the actual techniques of how you're going to build it, and that just gets stored in long-term memory.
Yeah, the problem is, like, I design before figuring out how to make things. So I'd never design anything with like, I'm going to use this technique to do this, therefore it's going to look like this. I just design it and then figure it out. But the problem, you kind of need to, like, once it's designed, you at least need to know it's possible before sending it to the client. So
Yeah.
I do sit there and just stare at the computer and in my mind try and figure out how it's done.
That's so funny.
And then, I guess the information just stayed there.
I do that so often. I'm like just about to hit send to the client, and I've got a model open right in front of me right now, and I'm like, yeah, that looks really nice, but actually, if they say yes,
I'm totally fucked.
how do I actually make that? I better have a plan just in case they say yes, because you've got to follow through somehow.
Yeah, you've talked in the past, Joey, about how architects in the building industry don't have a design mind. Architects will say build this, and then it's up to the builder to figure it out. So I guess you are playing architect and builder at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone who designs something has to ultimately figure out, well, if they're going to make it, they have to figure out how to make it once they design it. But things like, I find there's always one element on a project that's usually the one part that you really are not comfortable with. for projects that excite you, something that you're really excited to get out of bed and actually make, there's one part of that where you're like, I'm not sure what's going to happen. I think I know how to do it. But they're the ones, like Nick was saying, that you don't sleep and you just lay there thinking, okay, I need to bend this piece of wood. Should I cut it first and then bend it? Or should I bend it and then how do I cut it once it's bent? And then you go through all of those kind of pathways, those decision trees of like what comes first. That's what I think, that's what's exciting, right? About when you're coming up with these things.
And how often do you get to the end of that process and go, well, that was way easier than it needed to be. I completely overthought this. And it's the same with this drum that I've just put together. I've spoken to so many people about it, got advice. Nick, I came to you to ask you about using the different types of glue. It just was a piece of timber that got glued together and it worked. I mean, the glue's strong. We know that. Yeah. But because it's something new, it's just, you're second guessing yourself.
When you were saying, you were nervous about rolling the drum onto its side, will the glue hold? I'm like, Robin, you can get on top of that and do a dance.
Your car on it, I think.
It's going to be fine.
Yeah. But that's a good thing, though. I find that like that sort of brain power or that sort of time invested in learning a new thing, as long as it's progressing and that you can now take what you've learned there and put into the next thing, every second of it is worth it, right? It might not be worth it from a financial standpoint because you're not getting paid for every hour you do something or whatever. That is now another piece of knowledge to put into your wealth of knowledge that you're going to look back in fucking 20 years' time and be like, that's a piece of cake. It's important to be doing each one. Like we all do that right now. We might all be in different areas of our sort of journey, I guess you could say, but those little things are really important, I think.
And it gives
also
you
the stimulation of happiness and like fulfillment as well in what you do. Like, once you've cracked something, it's just like, it's such a good feeling.
It also gives you the confidence to charge the prices that you do for general day-to-day work, because the cost of building a cabinet is not just in the cabinet, it's the years and years of that experience. So all of those things add up to you being able to confidently say, I can build you something. What were you going to say, Joe?
I've got a question for you.
Okay.
So you're talking about some of the videos underperform when you're expecting them to perform. You've obviously got stats on your best videos. Which are your favorite videos that you've made? Which are the ones that represent you best as a maker and designer?
Probably, I don't even remember my videos, to be honest. Probably that whiskey cabinet with the crazy curved sort of leg. I think the only downside to that video is I didn't kind of land the point that I don't actually think that this is a good design. That's not what the intention behind it was. I know it looks fucking weird. The intention behind it was just what it looks like to just go nuts on a piece where time isn't an issue, right? Because that was documented in detail through Patreon. So it doesn't really matter if that took 2 weeks or 5 months. It took 5 months actually to build that piece.
Don't you have a bed video as well where you said that it was a shitty design and you actually didn't like it? You did
that's another favorite video probably. That is actually my bed too.
I'm just
so
noticing
every time I see it, I'm like,
noticing a recurring theme here where you're building things that you don't think are good. Do you know that bed video? So I've got a list of video ideas. In that list is a video about your video where I remake your bed and then argue the point why it is a good idea. And I've got that listed as one one of my video ideas, maybe for the future.
Right on.
I'll get to that.
That's a cool idea.
That bed video, if you see how I write scripts and prepare for voiceover and stuff now, you think I'm insane. But back during that bed video, that was just kind of winging it. And the way that the story came out is probably the best story I've done. But I'm fairly proud of that video. I think back to that whiskey cabinet video, though, it was... I think I like that build because it was a real sort of mental journey to go on. Like, I learned a lot about myself personally. And that's all like private sort of stuff, right? It doesn't need to really be mentioned in a video. But I think when you have the freedom to be able to sort of build what you want to build, you want to, I don't know, like you want to be there as much mentally as you are like physically to actually be building it. I want to be learning lessons as well. I want to be pushing myself and enjoy that journey and have good moments and moments that make you think. And I think it's those kind of builds where I can walk away from it feeling, I guess, the proudest, I suppose. Yeah.
Given the kind of methodical person that you are, could you put an estimate on the amount of time that goes into producing just a half-hour long YouTube video, like the last video about the cabinet?
So I can't. Well, I might be able to give you a fairly close thing. So I tried something different with this last video, and in order to do that, I had to do a bunch of studying and learning how to write stories and that sort of stuff. So essentially,
you actually studied story making to,
yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
So like I said, if you were to be in my workshop, you'd think I'm an insane person. I've got massive whiteboards with post-it notes and shit everywhere, and you'll just see me staring at a whiteboard for an hour.
Do you make furniture here, or what's the deal?
I'm thinking my neighbours are starting to wonder the same thing, Robin, because every time they walk in, they're like, "What are you doing?" But this goes back to actually learning something new. What we said before about spending time learning like this glue, and now it seems so obvious, right? Like I'm actually trying to put in the time and effort now, so that's going to better me for later. So in order to write and record the script for that last video, as well as edit it, that was 3 weeks of full-time work. And that was before the footage was actually cut down into a palatable piece. So essentially the way that I do my videos is while I'm building the piece, I might film, excuse me, anywhere between, I might film anything between say like an hour to 4 hours in a day. And then that night I will edit that down into the extended Patreon cut. So that is essentially editing out all the moments where I'm just standing around scratching my head or swearing or whatever. That is the extended Patreon cut. And then I'll edit that down to, it might be 4 hours down to 2 minutes or a minute. And that is what's going to be used in the YouTube video. That happens every night or every afternoon or whatever. So by the time the build is done, I now have the bones of the video ready to go. And then that was like another, it was like 3 to 4 weeks on top of that to get that last video to where it is. That's not the same with every video, but like I said, I'm trying to learn something new here. So it was just trying to, like, you know, when you learn a new skill and you have all this information, you don't know how to use it yet, and you just confuse yourself. It took a while to sort of wrap my head around that. Yeah.
Script writing is definitely it. I mean, that's more and more of the successful YouTubers in our genre, in our niche, are doing that now. I think that's almost become a prerequisite, especially in light of what you're saying about how-to videos don't work like they used to. You've got to be building like that table with all the curves. You've got to be building something so outrageously exceptional
exactly.
that it pulls people in. Otherwise, how-to videos aren't the way. But if you can craft a story, then you're halfway there. And that's script writing.
This also goes back to like everything that I do in the business video production. Like I need to be enjoying it. Okay, like that's the reason why I'm doing it as well. So script writing is the worst part of a video. So I'm trying to make it more fun, essentially.
So you don't enjoy
it. A process that makes it more fun for me and crafting a story and everything. And once I get better at this, it'll be a lot quicker. But I I'm just trying to have a good time, basically.
It's so
With everything
wild
that I'm
that
doing.
because you can't. Your delivery is so sit around a campfire and have a chat. So you present it and your story, your script feels so professionally drafted. I wouldn't have expected that to be the challenge that you say that it is.
Yeah, it's not my strong point, but I think the key is when you're writing a script, you want to be writing it in your voice, right? You're not writing a novel, you're not writing it in someone else's voice. It's knowing the information that you want to put down and then just spewing it out on a keyboard. And then going back and fixing anything that you might need to. But you want to read it back as if you're reading it like it's coming off the top of your head. Yeah.
That's a whole skill in itself, I think.
100%. And that's why, as this YouTube ecosystem changes over time, you hear more and more of the gurus talking about, no, I hire a scriptwriter. I hire the person to outsource it at all. I go on courses to learn how to do that because that is so fundamental. And the first 10, 15 years of YouTube's life, no one even thought about it. It wasn't even a consideration. Yeah. We are coming up to time, so we're going to have to bring it to a close. I would like to just ask one thing to just give this podcast some serious value to all the YouTubers out there. In terms of your thumbnails and titles, do you have a process or maybe some advice for everyone out there listening who's trying to craft?
Like if you see the amount of times that I change my titles and thumbnails, I clearly have no idea what I'm doing.
Or you know what you're looking for, you just might not be able to find it. And what is it that you are looking for?
Look, it is obviously you want a curiosity gap in there. So you want people to read it and be wondering something, but it's easy to say that and wildly difficult to execute. And I don't know if it's ever, like, it comes down to human psychology, okay? Like, what is these few words and what is this photo doing to tempt people to need to have to click? And I don't have the answer to that. Like, things that I think are amazing, like, I'll come up with an idea, I'm like, that's it, done. That's a 1 million view video for sure. And then you can just see the views dropping.
And your soul just evaporating. Yeah.
It's incredibly difficult, but I think like the thing is you just want to leave an open-ended sort of a question or a statement or something like that.
Yeah.
I think your title, like I'm scrolling through your videos now, and your titles like are so pared back. Like it's the minimum number of words. Like it's really fascinating.
Yes. Well, I mean, anyone that's sort of starting out, I'm sure a lot of people do know about this, but you have websites. I think it's called like Thumb Up. Let me just double check this.
Yeah, it is
here.
.tv.
Thumbs Up, yeah. That is a website that essentially will allow you to see what your thumbnail will look like with the text, and it'll show you what it looks like on the homepage and what it looks like on the up next page. And that look is really important. Okay, you want the words to look nice next to one another, and you don't want it to be so long that YouTube is cutting it off. Yep.
All right. Well, that's some takeaway then for everyone who's listening to this. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people listening to this in the YouTube community. I will make sure to title it as something that will pull people in. But yeah, thanks again, Nick. Always good to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me again. It's great.
Yeah.
I have to make it the 4th time soon.
Nice to talk some YouTube and socials for a change.
Yeah, sure.
We tend to do a lot of furniture making and furniture business, so it was nice to get a bit of that in as well.
No, happy to be
Everybody feeling a bit more positive now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Great stuff. Thanks so much, Nick. And everybody, just please go over. If everybody that listens, I'm sure checks out his YouTube, but go over to his Patreon, sign up.
Yeah,
Nice.
and go watch that last video I put up. Let's get those numbers up.
Cool. All right, man. All the best.
All right, guys. Thank you.
We'll talk again soon. Bye.
Cheers.